Welcome back, everyone, to the Flyin podcast. I'm here tonight with Sam and Zach, who made a cameo appearance last season, but I think he's back for more action. And we're all excited about this season coming up here. Boys, we had some preseason action. FC finally made the field. They're back in action. They played Austin this past week in a friendly. We're going to talk about some roster news, going into the preseason. A little bit about the game, as I mentioned. Towards the end of the episode, we're going to talk about maybe some MLS Kit leaks that happened last week as well. Talk a little bit about Leagues Cup and some of the announcements that were made today. And then finally, guys, kind of interesting. We had a lot of FCC players playing either, in Mexico or in Europe already. So we're going to kind of touch on those at the end here. But I'm pretty excited about this episode. Sam, how are we doing tonight?
Yeah, doing good, doing good. A little jealous to see, the FCC boys down in Florida. Um, but I'll touch on that obviously a little bit more. But yeah, the sunshine looks great. 65, 70-degree weather. Wow, we've had rain for I feel like it's been a month that we've had rain.
It's been
Um,
raining for so long here.
yeah, so that's how I'm doing is trying to recover from the wetness that is outside. But yeah, doing pretty good.
Zach, what about you? How are you doing?
I'm doing well as I'm doing good as well. I'm really looking forward to seeing these new kits in 2024. That's getting me really pumped. I'm a big fan of the uniforms that have came out in the past, and um, I think it'll be a big year for FC Cincinnati, and we're here for the ride. So
Yeah, you're wearing that white kit for those who are listening, on Apple, on Spotify. Zach's wearing the old 2021 kits, I believe. But I believe we're gonna get some new white ones. Sam, possibly some cream colored jerseys. I think we kind of tweeted about that, so we'll chat about that a little bit later. But going into some roster announcements. So, since last week, as the team, I think had already made their way down to Florida. Only surprise I really saw on the roster, they listed Barreal as a part of the roster there. They said it as immigration issue, which, I mean, from all it sounds like is, he's in Italy trying to work on getting maybe like a citizenship card or something like that in Italy. Maybe that, move happens. We're going to get into that a little bit later. We're coming down to the end of the European deadline in a lot of the different countries. So if it's going to happen, it's going to have to be like right at this moment, and it just doesn't look that way. But the other surprise that I saw was no Joey Akpinonu. I think that's how I pronounce his last name there. But
Yeah.
a young center back that we had picked up in the draft last year. It looks like he might be going on a loan, which will be good for him and his career. Anything that stood out for you guys? Sam, I'll start with you and some of the roster stuff that you saw.
Yeah, I think for the most part, I think it was just Barreal being on there. I did think it was pretty funny that that they did list it as the immigration issue. So a lot of people made their comments on that where it was like, yeah, it's not a U.S. immigration issue. It's a different country. So but yeah, on Joey Akpinonu, we had discussed off camera and in text and stuff that is this him possibly making, a loan move, right? So them
Mhm.
not putting him on the roster, what does his future look like at FC Cincinnati? We've seen a bunch of guys who, like him, have been drafted and maybe haven't quite worked their way to the rotation right away. I know, Ian Murphy has been a really good center back and has been able to work his way even up to the U.S. men's national team, right? So Joey not really getting too much of a chance. I think we said he had a cap during the U.S. Open Cup, I believe, with the first team. Other than that, hasn't really scratched the surface there. So a loan would make sense to have him go on loan somewhere. My first thought is the USL Championship, just because he's a young guy, and USL Championship is still a pretty good league to be put in. The second division, if you will, for U.S. professional soccer. So yeah, I think there's an opportunity there for him, but nothing else really stood out to me. I know there was a newer roster for the champions that came out for the Champions League that came out. So the only person on that roster that I thought was interesting was having the goalkeeper situation. So we have Alec Khan, who's been out listed as having kind of a surgery or having something that he had done in the offseason. So not having him on the roster initially, it was alarming to me, but then I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Like he has,
Right.
an issue similar to, Miazga, there was told he had, some back spasm, etc. So he's still, on the Champions League roster, but yeah, there wasn't any, as far as the other roster, wasn't too much.
Sam, I wanted to just briefly comment on that. And Zach, I don't know if you saw this too, but the Champions Cup, I guess we should start referring to this new name that it's come out with, Champions Cup. But Sergio Santos wasn't listed on that one. I don't know if you had seen that or not. So I think one of my favorite tweets that you sent out about it actually was, listing of the middle names. I think that was kind of hilarious that you actually get to see some of those guys like middle names in there. So that was just kind of something unique. But I think the players that we can report for the games actually, are up to, I think, about 48 hours before the game time. So
Yep.
plenty of time to add some other guys or register those people. The questions will be about, some players if they're able to travel. Bupenza and his current situation, possibly this trialist, depending on his work visa situation. Is he able to even play outside of the country at that point? So big questions that we might see, but at least in the roster announcements, it was kind of interesting. Zach, anything that stood out for you?
Yeah, actually, something interesting about Joey. He only appeared in 3 games last year. Two being the 5-3 penalty against Louisville City FC. I believe it was in the open competition. And then played 2 in the open competition. Only made 1 appearance in the MLS against DC in 2023. Only started once, came in twice as a sub. So I'm very interested to see what actually happens to him because he's currently listed on ESPN's roster still. So I don't know if ESPN hasn't picked up if he's gonna make that transition or not. But other than that, I wasn't very surprised with anybody else off the roster.
It's funny how like site to site, you make a good point. Like it can be so different on to like the people they list. I think Arias is still listed in some rosters as well. And, like Joey, I would imagine they're working on, like Sam said, a best fit for him, most likely in a, USL championship type scenario. I think last year, the big loan that we had was Isaiah Foster. He went back to the Switchbacks in Colorado, which is the team that we got him from. Hopefully he grew in that time, and I think he got to practice with the team during the playoff run, actually. So maybe he gained a little bit more experience, and he actually started, at wing back for this game. So we'll kind of move into that. On Friday, guys, the boys finally got back into real competition against another team. We played Austin FC. It was Austin's second preseason game. It was our first. The lineup, Sam, what I saw at least, like I mentioned with having Foster, and it almost appears that we went with Powell maybe at the right back in that scenario. Did anything stand out in your first half lineup there?
No, not too much. I mean, other than having, Kip Keller in that starting rotation, obviously I had mentioned, Miazga kind of having some trouble. So looks like he sat this one out as far as the whole preseason game. So just monitoring his status, especially if this is going to be a problem, maybe even throughout the season, right? Of how he's going to be, his availability for not only us, but also U.S. men's national team possibilities. Like, could that hinder it? But yeah, that was the only other takeaway from at least this first half lineup.
Yeah, I saw that at least, he was struggling with back spasms, I think is what I saw. Did you guys get a chance to follow that like live blog that they were doing about the game?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
Zach, what about you?
Did not. I did not.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, I mean, they had some good insight. I think Carter Chapley, with FC Cincinnati, was giving us some rundown of what was going on. We did get to see a goal in the first half. Unfortunately, we were down, 0-1 at that point. But Zach, I think it was good to see, Bupenza mixing well with Lucho. That was kind of a big talking point last year. Anything stand out? I don't know if you're able to see the video clip at least of the goal, but to me, their chemistry is going to be important this year.
Yeah, I mean, coming from last year with Barreal, or not Barreal, sorry, Lucho and Bupenza going at it. With I wouldn't say they worked well enough like they need to this year. It's definitely going to be an eye opener to see if they can work off each other with Vasquez being gone, and uh, seeing if Bupenza can step into that role that Vasquez played, almost as if Lucho can kind of make his own space, but Bupenza has his back at some points.
Yeah, no, good point. Especially because I think like Lucho, like you're saying, Lucho and Bupenza sometimes occupy similar space. So at least in this play, we see, I believe that I think Foster hits a ball down to Corey Baird. Corey Baird hits a cross into Lucho, who kind of delays touch. You see the guy kind of fly by him, which I thought was pretty cool in the video. He taps it over to Bupenza and that beautiful left foot, and he puts it away. So I really was happy to see them gelling well. I think, again, that was the big talking point last year, is how they would come together. Good shout, though, Zach, in occupying the same space, though. Bupenza may have to still drop back, and Baird kind of is like interchangeably in those positions up front. Maybe we don't have a dominant hold-up type striker right now, but they can work in different ways. So that was cool to see. At least we go into half 1-1. Second half, Sam, run us through what the lineup was.
Yeah, so lineup, you saw a lot more of the FCC 2 guys, as well as a little bit of the first team subs. So guys like Angulo, Kimi, Dado, Kenji, Halsey, Schaefer, Loro, and then Santos, right? So just to name a few. But it was really nice to see those FCC guys kind of get some reps with the first team, especially honestly, in my opinion, the best stadium in the USL Championship. That Tampa Bay Rowdy Stadium is like an incredible stadium it actually is, right next to the water there. So for them to get an opportunity to show what they got, play against Austin, obviously didn't end up going well there in the second half, but glad they got some reps.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the second half, you're just looking to see if anyone stands out. I think Austin had a few players that had seen some starting minutes last year. Derusi is, the big one that comes to mind. He's obviously a starter. He's the one that ends up scoring the game-winning goal. It ends 2-1. But for those guys to just get experience gelling with each other, I think, we kind of had talked about this off air, but you're going to see a lot of these young guys see more minutes this year too. And do any of these guys, make the roster? I think, and Schaefer, like you mentioned, Brian Schaefer, and then Kenji Dimba, I believe the Dayton guy, both guys that are fighting for a contract, so that looks pretty cool to have them out there. I think somebody had reported that Kenji actually was playing in a different position than his typical striker or winger position too. So, are they trying these guys out in different spots? I think that's what your preseason is for in some ways. Zach, it's almost like, in baseball terms, you'd kind of understand this. It's like you being a catcher and trying out shortstop for the preseason. I mean, that's your time to kind of figure those things out.
Right, right. Using that term, it's almost he wants to stay in one position. If that makes sense. He once you're, let's say he's the catcher, right? No catcher wants to go to shortstop. No shortstop wants to go to catcher. So it's almost that ideology where he's going to test what he can do and what position works for him. And I think Pat will find the best spot for him.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, ideally, he'd probably want to be in a striker role. And that seems to be where we have some like possibility for minutes too for him. I'm really curious to see if those guys even get any minutes, because look at how much of a home run, Roman Celentano was, and even Ian Murphy, like we've now talked about, with starting roles, I would predict, this year. So are we going to see any of these guys break through? We didn't really get to see that a ton last year. But now is their time to shine and to really, make their case to make the roster. But one thing I took away, kind of after the game, Pat Noonan's quoted saying that this trialist, so all this rumor out there about this trialist, right? But Pavel Bucha, I believe, is who we're thinking this guy is. And I think Austin FC even had some video clips of the game that were deleted at one point too, just because of, trying to hide basically the identity of this guy for now. Um, Sam, I just found out on, Instagram, Kip Keller follows him. So clearly there's connection. Clearly this guy is, down in Florida and training. It seems to be that he's working on getting his visa to actually play in the United States. Um, but it sounds like, at least from, Pat Noonan's quote, that he was the best player, in the game at the time in the second half, which, I mean, I don't know if that's saying a ton, but it is promising that he's at least out there and he's looking good.
Yeah, I mean, come on, guys. We know. Like, don't try to hide it anymore. But I think we're just waiting on that announcement. I think it's a little bit obvious. Kip, sorry. I think you gave it away there. Following the guy, gave us a little bit of a nugget. Obviously, Ryan scouring the Instagrams, making sure people are following everybody. Not following somebody, then we got a problem, right? But I did want to touch on something that was said prior episode, with Bobby. I think this really does show, especially in the second half, it shows, FCC's continued pursuit of that growth, right? Not only in the first team, but at the FCC2 and academy levels. So trying to take, what Bobby said last week and being, seeing it come to fruition during the preseason is exactly what he was touching on.
Yeah, good shout. Zach, were you able to listen to the episode with Bobby? I think he had some good insight, but Sam makes a good point. I mean, we had a lot of these young guys, or some, I think some of them even were from other academies, Sam, too. But how can we foster, the FCC2 team to produce players for the first team? Zach, did you take anything away from that?
Everything that you guys just said.
No, that's
got
fair.
nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's totally fine. I mean, I think especially one that stood out, as I said, that had joined from a different youth academy is I think it's Luca Ben Alcazar. He's the guy that came over from NYCFC. He actually got some minutes with the first team last year for NYCFC. He was their captain, for the second team at one point as well. So I think that guy actually has a fair chance to make the roster and to possibly see some minutes. And whether it's Leagues Cup or if there is like a US Open Cup, there's possibilities for him to actually play. He's played in an MLS game, similar to Halsey. He doesn't have a ton of minutes, but I could see him breaking through. I don't know about London Nagato. Probably not as much. Maybe Dado, and most likely Kimi, just because we're short on, strikers right now. But yeah, I think it was, at least in this game, disappointing that you get a loss, but come on, guys, it's the first preseason game. So the next one is ended up, going to be on Thursday of this week against New England, the Revolution. This is the first of two games we'll have in the preseason against them. Anything you guys are looking for, in these next preseason matches? Sam, I'll start with you.
Well, so I don't know if I'll be able to scout it out or if I'll have time, but I'll be down in Florida this weekend. Unfortunately, not on Thursday, but I'll be in the Bradenton, Tampa area. So, I'll see if I can hop over, take a glimpse of training. Just peek my head over the fence there, say, "Hey guys, what's going on over there?" But yeah, the Walter Campbell Sports Park is pretty close. So, I mean, that's what I'm looking forward to. Obviously, in my mind, I saw they were playing on Thursday, and it said obviously it's like a closed preseason game, right? I mean, is anything really closed? Like,
I think you can go and sneak in, Sam. That's what I'm hearing. And if we hear of a trialist too that was in attendance, maybe that was
oh, it
you.
was me. Yeah, it was me. Yeah.
Zach, anything you're looking for in this upcoming game?
Well, it's kind of a sleeper, but I am gonna say Pat Noonan is currently 1-0 against Mr. Porter, or 0-1. Sorry,
Oh,
0-1 against Mr. Porter. So I want to see Pat get that one, even though maybe it doesn't matter until the regular season, but I want to see him get that number one.
yeah, no, that'd be pretty cool. And maybe they're holding some grudges against each other going into the season. I wonder if, I don't know if you guys ever thought about like MLS coaches, and kind of like the personal grudges that they might have against each other, or like, stuff like that. I'm sure like a lot of these guys have played against each other at some point, or either like coached together. Like Kenny Arena, like his dad obviously was another coach too. So there's a lot of like interconnections between them. We'll have to go back and see if there's any connection between Caleb Porter and Pat Noonan. I would imagine there might be at some point. But yeah, this game on Thursday will be interesting. It is fascinating to me, guys. I wanted to kind of point this out before we head to a break, but a lot of these other clubs around the MLS are now finally announcing that they're coming out with broadcasts for the game that you can watch. And, I know Sam is traveling down to Florida to be able to go and watch the game. Now, obviously that's not the reason why, but yeah, I think like Charlotte announced it. I think LA Galaxy had recently announced it, and obviously, Inter Miami is all over, the preseason for their games, but it's kind of not fair that you get to see some other teams and then we don't get to see ours. It would be interesting, because then everyone would be kind of like zooming in on their screen to kind of see who's that guy out there, with number, whatever, 200 or whatever the penny says that the trialist is wearing. But it is just fascinating to me that there's not a standardized broadcast schedule for like everyone.
Yeah, I would believe like that would be the big thing. Would be, are these guys allowed to be on camera? If they are trialists, I know some teams have different policies than others, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's like an MLS wide thing. To your point, the reason why other teams are allowed to and other teams aren't. Yeah, I think as fans of a sport and of the MLS, I think the further we go in like this sports generation, the more content and the more things that we want to see, the more things the fans want to see behind the scenes. That's the biggest thing, I think, especially with the content that's being produced, in other sports, particularly in the documentaries, with golf, with tennis, being able to see the behind the scenes of all these huge tournaments, even if it's just the preseason. I mean, MLS fans would eat that up without a doubt. So
Yeah.
the fact that they're not able to take advantage of it now, I don't know if it's because they don't have people that are staffed to do it. I'm sure any freelance person would be able to do that no problem. But yeah, I do find it a little curious that some don't and some do.
Like, are we like sickos for wanting to watch preseason games? But you're right. I mean, we're all like itching to watch any sort of content. Like anytime, like, FC Cincinnati released a 1 minute video of their training, and I'm like looking at every single player in the video. I did hear a good Yuya, for Yuya Kubo. So I feel like there's got to be one of those for every, training videos. Or I think somebody else even commented and said, we have to see Lucho sitting on, a soccer ball. That's like a official thing in preseason as well.
That was almost, I was looking at that like that's almost a cardinal sin in basketball. I know that.
I
I don't know
know.
if it is so much in soccer, but
I mean, Zach, did you ever hear I guess, tale is, you're not supposed to sit on a soccer ball because you'll make it lopsided.
Right, right.
Is there anything
That was the first time I've ever heard that, actually.
you never heard of that one before?
Never heard of that.
Yeah, growing up, they'd say, don't sit on the soccer ball because you'll make it lopsided. So, maybe Lucho doesn't weigh enough that he'd do that. I don't know. Just funny. But did you guys happen to notice that Lucho dyed his hair pink?
yeah, I couldn't help but notice because I think the MLS tweeted it out as well.
That's true. Yeah. One of the like very minimal things that they've said about us in general in
Yeah.
the preseason even too. But yeah, it was funny to see that. I wonder, I don't know if anyone asked him why pink, but I'd be really curious to see why. Any thoughts to why?
Maybe the new Barbie movie. He was really psyched about it. I don't know.
It
I
was
have no idea.
inspired by the Barbie movie.
I don't know. I mean, that's the first thing that comes to mind when you say pink that would be relevant
That's
right
true.
now. But
You see that I think Angulo's got dreads again,
I
and
did see
then
that.
he's got
Yeah.
like a blonde patch, underneath his chin too.
These South American players, I mean, their styles are, incredible and very flamboyant. So I wouldn't be surprised if I think everybody should dye like just do a little just blonde bleach should be when you go and play in Jamaica. I think everybody should have blonde hair.
Blonde hair.
That'd be cool.
Zach, is there anything like, at least from teams you've been on in the past? I mean, obviously, like the postseason runs, you see everyone dye their hair or like cut their hair. I've never heard of a preseason, having a similar thing.
Yeah. I personally, I think he dyed it because that's his favorite color.
Yeah, we should
That-
ask him sometime. One day when we get Lucho on the pod, we'll ask him why pink. I feel like these guys probably go through 4 or 5 different hair changes every single season. Wonder what that has to do to their hair. I don't know. But moving on from here, guys, I have a trivia question for you before we take a little break here. Including Mascara's debut. We're going to touch on this later in the podcast, but Yerson Mascara debuted for Villarreal in La Liga this past weekend. Including his appearance, how many FC Cincinnati players, past and present, have played in a La Liga match?
In a
Sam?
La Liga match or played for a La Liga team?
Yeah.
Do they have to play in the match? Is that
They have to be in an appearance, like they have to be there and playing.
all right? Okay. All right. That's a different statistic. All right.
Bonus if you can name any of the players too.
Oh, there's no chance I wanna try that and embarrass myself. I'm gonna go with 3. I'm gonna go with 3 players.
Okay. Zach, what about you?
I'm gonna go with 2. I'm gonna say 2.
All right, 3 and 2, but stay tuned to the end of the episode and we'll give you the answer. We'll be right back.
So Agility is a technology-driven soccer training facility. So we offer 6 facets of training. That would be Tech Touch with ball launchers that work on your first touch, the TSZ, which is the ESA equipment and working on decision making. We also have a circuit. Circuit training would be taking the ESA equipment to the next level. It's kind of like a soccer obstacle course. Then we offer neuroscience training with our reflection tools, working on processing things a little bit faster, hand-eye coordination and such. We offer skills classes, which is your typical core skills training. Lots of people still enjoy that, so we work on a lot of attacking 1v1 skills. And then we also offer athlete development. So our athletes come here and they work on speed, agility, quickness, explosive movements, really just learning how to move and function a little bit better as an athlete.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Flyin podcast. First part of the episode, we chatted about the roster, gave a little bit of a breakdown of the preseason game we had. We're going to get into some other news of the week, boys. We had some MLS kits that actually leaked on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, but actually originally was leaked on FC24. So on Saturday morning, Top Bins, which is a Charlotte FC podcast, had tweeted, if somebody retweets this 100 times, we will release the kit for 2024. And they had a huge response. So all of a sudden you see a little graphic, as you see in FIFA, like the Ultimate Team cards. And there's this beautiful Charlotte FC kit that you see. And not sure if this is legit or not, but then you hear the club kind of, is reacting to it. And eventually they kind of tweet out joking about it. So I think it is actually real. But man, FC 24 really kind of screwed up in releasing that one.
Yeah, I mean it was multiple kits that were released, and thank God, no FCC kit was released.
Thank God.
Yes, I didn't want
Bold
to,
take.
yeah, I didn't want to see it leaked. I like when, and I saw the point that somebody else made was these clubs go, it takes the process for these new jerseys and concepts and things. They take years to make. And then the process of the unveiling is a huge deal. Putting out a video, graphics, getting, players in the jerseys. It's a huge process, right? And clubs honestly look forward to this. And maybe even for some clubs, not all of them, this may be, their biggest, impression post of the year, right? Or something like that. At least, top 10, top 5 impression of the year if, they don't have a great year or something like that. But yeah, I thought it was really unfortunate that, these were leaked. And you're right, it's on FC24 and the MLS trusted them with these kits to be revealed and released at probably a certain point and certain date. And somebody just decided, in the algorithm, I'm going to add a couple. Nobody will notice. And then, yeah, we noticed.
We play our
Definitely
FIFA.
took notice. Yeah.
I think I was refreshing that whole morning, and I actually downloaded like the Ultimate Team app just to see if I still had access from the previous year, because I didn't actually get this past year's game. But man, I was like starting to DM some other people that had access to it and trying to see, is there an FC Cincinnati one, just because like I was interested more than anything. But Sam, you make a good point. I mean, a lot of the club does good work and, actually coming out with a video or an unveiling. I think they even have like a specialty event, on February 16th is kind of the rumored date right now in the West End and Art Gallery. They're going to unveil it in this big, event in front of all these people. So online, if it gets leaked, it kind of wrecks a lot of these teams' plans. It is unfortunate though, to me, just based on timing of like, let's say ours comes out on the 16th. Our first game technically is like the 23rd. There's not enough time for you to go and get the new kit for the year. Why aren't we unveiling these? And I said it even before. Why aren't we unveiling these, before Christmas so that people can buy it, and the club gets more sales this way? It is kind of unusual. They've known for 2 years now what this is going to look like. Why are we waiting until a leak, is pretty much how people are finding out at this point? But it's very interesting, because I'm sure a lot of people had to scrap their plans, but some people actually made some good PR of it. I think Chicago Fire, even tweeted out like, hey, footy headlines, does this one look familiar or anything like that? Or tweet about this rumor. And it was actually from the club account. So I thought that was funny. I think San Jose was like, is this a good time to play, FIFA or something like that too? So they're trying to make the most of it. But Zach, did you see any of the new kits?
Yeah, so I was actually looking at X last week, and I was kind of going across some different tweets about the kits, and I did see a lot of feedback from many different people when you look up FC Cincinnati in general, saying they love to see the orange kit become the home kit and the blue kit becoming the away kit. Now, will that third kit be a white? Will it be a gray? Like you said, will it be a cream? I could see a lot of different colors coming out. But with MLS rolling out that third kit now, I think FC Cincinnati should definitely be on the lookout to see what other teams are doing to make theirs unique in any way possible. And for example, get the youth involved, maybe making a kit for them, or like let the youth design either a practice kit or some sort of unique kit for the club. So yeah, it'll be
Are
very
you referencing like having like a me go on Microsoft Paint and dub up my own version of the FCC kit, Zach? Or no,
yeah.
I think that's a good shout though. I mean, I think it would be cool to have kid designed one or something like that, or even as like a match game like warm up one. I think they did. I don't know if like formally announced that like it's gonna be a white kit, but white or cream, that's kind of the question. And I think, Sam, you can touch on that a little bit more because you had tweeted that out.
Yeah, I think, based off of what I have seen as far as what the FCC players are wearing, it seems to be more of cream colored based. And I'd even said, and to Ryan's point, I tweeted out, based on the gear we've seen, I would think that we may get something similar to the Austin FC jersey, which is
That one's
kind of
fire.
a cream
really
based
nice kit.
with green trim. So if we were to get cream base with probably both orange and blue trim, if I had to imagine, based off of the kind of gear that we've been seeing. But to touch on some of the other kits though, some of my favorites, I really enjoyed the Sporting KC with the diamond layout, as well as, to me, the LA Galaxy seem to never miss. They really, like, they seem to be very consistent in I thought their kit was very clean. And then Phillies was really good too with the snake like skin stripe down the middle. I thought that was really cool and really clean. Obviously the other ones were probably good as well. But those were the three that kind of stood out to me.
Yeah, it was interesting that you said you didn't say Philly wasn't the first one you said. What was the first
Sporting
one?
KC.
Sporting KC with the diamonds, right? I mean, we've
Yeah.
been calling for that for years.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I think the official kit leak was like 17 or 18 total or something like that. All of them actually look like really good. I'm very impressed with this year's. You have some mix of some old logos. So like, San Jose has a really cool, historic logo that they used before. Vancouver, with the maple leaf in the soccer ball. That was my favorite in the Charlotte one. Vancouver's, for those who aren't familiar, go and Google search it. Old logo, again, the maple leaf inside the soccer ball, but a kind of like navy blue looking kit, and it's clean. It's super, super nice.
Orlando as well.
Orlando's as well, good shout. And I think the lion, the old looking lion that they had. So, do we go with an alternative lion instead of the crest on the jersey? That would be kind of cool. That would be a kind of a cool look, something different. Just the lion, not the actual, Sam's pointing to it there. Just the actual lion though, instead of the crest. That would be kind of fascinating to me, but really proud of our, team, I guess, for not leaking it or not somehow, getting it out there, I guess. St. Louis, I believe, wasn't out there. The Crew was not out there as well. A lot of their people think they're going to go back with their old logo for this one, which would be kind of interesting. Zach, did you have a favorite one that you saw?
My actual favorite was the River kit. And I noticed they haven't been wearing that recently.
For FC, you
So-
mean your favorite kit?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
What about any of the leaked ones? Did you see any of the leaked ones?
I did not.
Okay. All right. Yeah, go check them out. Again, for everyone who's listening, I mean, they're out there now, but it is kind of cool every year to go and see the different ones. But so Zach, of the FC ones that you like the River kit the most?
I do. And I've noticed they haven't been wearing them recently. So I find myself questioning what's going on with that.
I was wondering for the preseason game why they didn't wear the River kit. That's a good shout. I mean, they were wearing their gray like warm-up tops for that. So I'm not really sure why. I think Austin was wearing theirs. So good point. I didn't really even catch on that at first. But yeah, it will be interesting to see. I think, like we said, February 16th, look out for that date. I think that's when officially we might be getting it. I think everyone online is just ready to have it now that all the other ones are out there. But moving on to some other new news that we had today about Leagues Cup, our favorite, cup competition, Sam. SC Cincinnati was announced that they're going to be playing NYCFC and club, is it Querétaro? Did I say that one correctly? Hopefully.
Sure.
Which is Liga MX club in Mexico. They were 10th last year, in their league down there. Obviously, it's not as big as playing like a Chivas or Club America like we had in the past. So I'm a little disappointed not to see a bigger club, honestly, come to TQL, but I think hopefully the opportunity to see Monterrey in the Champions Cup would be a good opportunity for that. But if we look at kind of how the breakdown is set up for Leagues Cup this year, they kind of changed the format for this from reading, the post release today. FC Cincinnati is the second ranked team in this kind of pooled setting and how they created the groups. So 3 groups instead of 4, which is typical for a soccer type tournament. So that's kind of weird to begin with. Leagues Cup is, again, just made up rules, I feel like, but no overtime no overtime. So straight to PKs again this year as well. But if we were to win the group or continue on, I believe we get to host a lot of the games at home. I would just hope to see some other cool Mexican teams, because I always think like the atmosphere is pretty awesome, especially last year, seeing, I think all 3 of us actually were at that game. It was incredible, just the support that some of those teams have. They come from all over to see their team play, and it's always a good time.
Yeah, I think on FCC being the 2 seed, they will play at at home all games, except I believe it was if they play Club America
Club
or
America,
some other
or
team,
I think Monterrey as well.
Monterrey. So
Mhm.
those two, unless they play those two, it's going to be at home. Which, hey, shoot, I'll watch a game in Monterrey any day of the week. That
Beautiful.
stadium is absolutely beautiful with the mountain in the background, just incredible. But as far as the teams that we are playing, in
Sam, we have some hills
NYCFC,
in the background of our stadium.
all right. Sure. I don't know if it compares, but sure. But as far as NYCFC and Cartero, I know I had tweeted this out today, but Cartero placed 10th last season in the League MX and are currently at 14th. And then NYCFC in the MLS last season finished 11th. So the competition, to Ryan's point, isn't great. I mean, for competition standpoint, we had great draws. These were great draws that FCC can get out of the group without, maybe having to play their top guys every single game. We'll see. I obviously Pat Noonan, his philosophy is every game is, one step at a time. So we take each game and we're gonna win that game, regardless of the competition. But yeah, I think based off of this group, I think it's a winnable group for sure.
Zach, any thoughts on Leagues Cup? I know, again, you went to a game last year, so you got a little bit of a taste of it.
Right. I was actually kind of surprised that FC Cincinnati didn't get a bye this year. I did see where New York was, I believe, first in the East, in the East first group. So I was really surprised about that as well. And I know scrolling through X, not a lot of fans are happy about what MLS is doing with this cup. They kind of think it's a joke. So it'll be interesting to see what it goes on in this tournament. But yeah, like you said before, going to the game last year and kind of seeing the atmosphere that it brings. Hopefully, it brings the same energy, the same crowd. I personally, I found it to be a good tournament last year. Now we'll see what happens this year with the different competition. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point with the bye. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but I think actually Columbus is the only team that got a bye for this tournament. I think they were the 1 seed, but the seeding is based on how the teams did in the supporter shield standing. So I don't quite understand how they would have gotten a bye on that then, or like how we're second. I don't know. I really don't understand that part of things. I think eventually they may look to move the timing of this tournament, like we've talked about in prior podcasts. Right now, it's scheduled to be the end of July into August is the current setting for it, but it's in the middle of the season and it's like right after Copa America. Like, I don't really understand the point of it other than to drive, more money up, more opportunities for Apple TV, to make money through the MLS as well. It just seems kind of odd, especially with, again, more teams getting into Champions Cup now too, which seems to be more of like the premier tournament. And Leagues Cup is starting to almost seem like the replacement for US Open Cup, which I haven't heard anything about recently. I don't know if you have or not, guys, but we're coming up here on the season soon, and there's still no word about this competition. So what's going on with that? I'm not really sure.
I'm gonna guess if there's no word, then somebody talked to the MLS and shut them up a little bit, from US Soccer. That's my perspective.
Meaning
that
like
was the last word. That was the
Yeah,
last
I mean,
word that we heard, right?
yeah,
Was
I thought
US Soccer was
right,
just like, hey, we're doing this thing, and you're
right.
playing with the USL Championship and every other, competitive league that is in the United States.
Yeah, so like what happens now? Does US Soccer like put forth, their schedule for it? There's just been no announcement, and what, the season's 21 days away for the first game, I think for I think Inter Miami is the first one, but yeah, it's crazy. Like, I've never seen in any other league where like there's not an established schedule this close to the season for, a competition like that, especially with the history that this has in the country. I mean, it's like the third oldest cup competition in the world, I believe. So it is kind of crazy. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, but at least we had a Leagues Cup schedule that did come out. At least that competition has some sort of I guess structure to it. but still the dates for the games haven't been decided yet. Guys, moving on from this, we had some former FCC players, talk about the European style. Here we go. Vasquez being one of them. So Brandon Vasquez, man, unbelievable run of form here in the past 2 weeks. The dude is motivated. I don't know if it's just being in a new environment, maybe external motivation to go to Europe now. But he had a goal against Sam Quintero or Quintero. Yeah. Did I say that correctly? This past Thursday, a header goal, so off a cross, similar to what we had seen. I think for the U.S. men's national team, he had a similar goal, and then 2 goals this past Saturday against San Luis. The first goal, you guys have to go back and look at this one. Unbelievable header from about the top of the 18. Another cross where you're like, all right, maybe he's going to chest it down, maybe play off of him, but flicks it on over the keeper. Just unbelievable goal. I don't know if he'll score a better goal, to be honest with you, but right now he's leading the Golden Boot race down in Mexico. It's early on in the season, but if he keeps up this pace, like, I'd be very happy for him. I, again, had tweeted out how proud I am. Just this is the first time I've really followed other FCC players when they've moved abroad or to other teams, because I love Vasquez. I mean, he just plays hard, and again, sometimes we were a little hard on him in the way that he played, but ultimately, like, I think he's a great player and he represented our club well. So he's fun to follow now.
Yeah, I think, I'm happy to see him succeeding as well, but like we all kind of figured and knew, he would dominate Liga MX, as it really is a step down from MLS competition these days. If we're really being honest, I mean,
well,
look at the All-Star game competitions and everything else. Like, players from Liga MX are being signed to the MLS. It's not really happening too much, the other way around. Other than like Brandon Vasquez, Cade Cowell. Those are probably the two
starting to. I wonder if
biggest
it's going to
names.
be flipping. I don't know.
So I don't think so. I really don't. I think he just needed to make a move somewhere else, and then I mean, Europe should be, if he explodes in Liga MX and dominates, then it'll be more apparent that he should go to Europe.
Yeah.
Whereas, maybe for some European clubs, it wasn't really a fall off, but not last season, but 2 seasons ago, he had an incredible season, was an MLS All-Star. And then this past season, I mean, it wasn't his best season. He still had a really good season, still racked up the goals and everything. I think 17, 18 goals in all comps. But maybe in their eyes, it was a step down. But I still think, as far as a challenge, he needed to make that move to Europe to elevate his game, to challenge his game. Here in Liga MX, I think he's just going to dominate.
I wonder, because of the team he's on, if he'll dominate too. Like, I mean, Monterrey has so many more resources. Like, their players at lower end positions make so much more money than MLS players. So you can get higher quality in those spots. And they're going to provide him with good service, is what I'm seeing. They're kind of interplaying with him better, honestly, than we did last year. I think that's the biggest thing in watching some Monterrey games now, is how much they, look for through balls for Brandon, or how many times did we call for Barreal or Arias to make crosses into the box for Vasquez to score on a header. I feel like it hardly happened last year. Sam, that's a bold take, man, about the step down part, like we had said originally, but now that I'm seeing more of it, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I don't know if the lower end quality, in the MLS, it seems to be a little bit more even throughout. Maybe in Liga MX, some of the teams that are at the bottom are bottom feeders, and they can, Vasquez can score 4 goals in those games and he racks up his stats, but you just don't see that as much. But
any thoughts, Zach, on Liga MX versus MLS there?
You know what? Being your brother, I'm gonna have to agree with you. I see it as a step down, personally. Yeah, that's all I got for it.
All right. Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. Again, Vasquez has another game coming up, I believe, on Saturday. a lot of his games actually are available to watch, which has been fun. Again, sometimes European games you don't get to see as much of. But moving on, Yerson Mosquera. Sam, you want to touch on him?
Yeah, so he got loaned out to Villarreal this past week from Wolves. So huge step for him to go play in the La Liga. Probably get a little bit more playing time with Villarreal as they are kind of fighting relegation. It looks like. I mean, it's a big turn from them. I mean, huge club. They've been Europa League champions, it seems like 10 times the past, 10, like it just seems like they've had Europa League. They've been in the Europa League for I don't know how many seasons in a row, but yeah, he came in 78th minute, down 2-3 to Barcelona, and they ended up winning, coming back, winning 5-3, and he got in the books. He got a yellow card in the 89th minute. So Mosquera was in the books, but like I said, they're still sitting 14th in La Liga. So upset the Giants that are Barcelona. Um, I did think it was pretty cool to see him upset a club like that. And then to me, the bigger story was people on Twitter suggesting that Mosquera made Xavi resign from Barcelona. I thought that was phenomenal. The game that Mosquera plays against Barcelona, right after that, Xavi goes, I can't do this Barcelona thing anymore. I'm done at the end of the season. And people are like, oh, Mosquera did it to him. He did it. It just took one game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say other than there's no other conclusion than that. I did find it funny though. He comes in 78th minute, and then all of a sudden the offense gets a lot better. Uh, maybe Mosquera's dominant presence in the back scared some of Barcelona's attack. I don't know. He ends up getting a yellow. I forget exactly how it was. I think it was maybe a tackle. I don't think it was dissent, but there was a video clip of him on a corner kick or a free kick, actually, where he was jostling with the Barcelona guy in the box. I forget exactly who it was. But I was like, oh, that's typical him, except for the fact that he wasn't rolling on the ground, which
I was about to say, yeah, he didn't flop.
yeah. But Brenner finally got his debut, guys. So for Udinese and Serie A, Zach, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question about Mascara actually.
Yeah.
So is he still on a loan from Hampton? From Wolverhampton?
Yep, correct. So he's on loan from Wolves. Yep, this was his first appearance. He, I think, got announced like last Tuesday or Wednesday, so he's already to play. Didn't start, but at least to come in for some minutes. But yeah, Wolves have got to be looking at him like, man, this dude's a stud.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why they didn't hold on to him, but
Sounds like, I mean, he shouted out the club well, or I think Wolves did. I know he had said good things, but apparently there's a quote from Wolves that said you're very pleased about how Mosquera had developed at FC Cincinnati. Maybe we get some future players from them just because of that relationship. That'd be kind of cool. But like I was saying, Brenner finally got his debut, Udinese in Italy. He had I think it was a thigh injury. I think he had surgery, actually. He pulled his quad. Finally got in 10 minutes at the end of the game against Atalanta in a 0-2 loss. They're in a relegation battle, so it'll be, again, interesting to see if he even features much. There seems to be another striker that's ahead of him right now. Brenner was such a huge transfer for us. I would hate to see him just be a flop over there. It's just so difficult to get solid minutes, and especially coming off of an injury middle of the season. Sam, any thoughts about Brenner?
Yeah, I just want him to stay healthy. I mean, my goodness, I think it was the surgery that he had. I think it wasn't his preseason last year, if I'm not mistaken. We were getting really hyped for it, and we were like, "Hey, good luck, Brenner. You're gonna do great." And then I believe it was news of in training he got injured, and it was like, "Oh, well, he's out for the season." So, yeah, happy to see him back healthy, being able to get into the squad. But I think to your point, getting more minutes, especially if they do drop down to Serie B, they're not going to stay in Serie A probably, unless Brenner takes hold and they go on a run, which would be really cool to see. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do because his his valuation is going down, obviously. So will they be able to hang on to him via the financial situation? It'll be interesting to see throughout the season, but yeah, just happy for him to be healthy.
Yeah, I don't know. Is a loan back to FC Cincinnati in the cards just for 6
no.
months?
No, Zach, what do you think?
No, I don't think so.
That would be
It would
funny.
be-
I mean, we're in need for a striker right now.
It would be great and all, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with his attitude and everything anymore. I think we're over that, and the whole Barreal situation hopefully isn't going to be the same way either. But he's got no reason to be mad at the club. So I don't think that'll happen. Barreal's a pro too, so I don't feel like he's in the same scenario. Santiago Arias though finally got his transfer. He's going to Bahia in Brazil. Again, had been rumored for about 2 weeks. It is pretty sad. I'm honestly pretty bummed. I really liked watching Arias play. We need a right wing back in the worst way right now too. But he actually was playing tonight, and I was looking up to see if he had made his debut, but he wasn't even on the 18 roster. I really hope that Santi can stay healthy. That was the biggest thing with him. And from everything that it looked like, the club would have had to pay him a good deal of money to keep him, and he only played in 17 games last year for us. So do you really want to pay somebody at 32 that load of money for potentially not that many games, and especially with injury and that he gets called into Copa America? I mean, if you're going to pay a guy close to $1 million and he's going to be gone either with injury or, like I said, with his national team for a while, I kind of see where they're coming from. It's just made me sad.
And
Yeah,
go
ahead, Zach.
You speak about the market value of him and how much we may be willing to pay him. I found it interesting because in 2018 he was worth $20 million. That was his market value when he was playing for Atletico de Madrid. In 2018, now bring it back all the way down to 2023, he's only worth 2.5. So he made a big spill from the age of 26 to 31.
Yeah, he had I think a terrible ankle injury. He ended up, I think, breaking bones in his ankle actually, and it ruined his career for a while. He took like a full year off. So yeah, he lost his valuation, and it is crazy to see like how much he was making. And I wonder if that played into now, like, I think we had mentioned in a prior podcast, him going to Brazil had possibly more of a chance to make more money. And at the end of his career, this kind of like last gasp to get that chunk of change, maybe.
Yeah, I think him signing to Bahia in Brazil, it looks to be an opportunity for him to play closer to home, right? For the Colombian eyes to get on him as well for the national team. So there's a possibility there. They don't have to travel that far to go watch him play, scout him out. But he signed with them till 2025. So he'll be 30, 34 at that point then, right? Not sure how much it will help in his quest to continue on the national team, but last season Bahia actually missed out on relegation by 1 point. So they're probably looking at Arias to bolster their back line a little bit more, so that way they don't have another scare like that. Yeah,
good shout. Yeah, I think that I'm really gonna miss Santi, like we were saying. And then another player, we'll mention now too is Baji. Zach, he finally got his transfer.
He did. So he played his first game with the Turkish second team, Bendermispor. He only played 9 minutes with them. Unfortunately, he had a yellow card in the 6-0 win with them. But a fun fact is he actually plays with
Plays against them, yeah.
He plays against Galatasaray in the Turkish Cup next week, which I found was pretty cool.
Yeah, Galatasaray again, like massive club in Turkey. So for Baji to go over there, he's in the second division team, who's I think doing pretty well over there, but in those cup competitions, again, this is what we're missing out with Open Cup. So over there, he gets to play the best team in Turkey, arguably. So good opportunity for Baji. It sounds like he's going to hopefully have an important role Sam, any thoughts about Baji's finally moving over there? It seemed like it was rumored for a little bit and never confirmed.
Well, yeah, I was about to say, I'm surprised you didn't note on it, but he officially announced it on his Instagram. So that's why I was like, okay, I don't know if I really believe that he played. And then I saw the Instagram post. I was like, okay, he played. All right. All right.
I saw some photos of him from the game too. They had it on their account actually as well. But we're happy for Dom. It's a interesting opportunity. I think Pat Noonan had talked about it a little bit in an interview I saw recently, but he's happy for him, so I'm happy for him. I don't think we could pay him, as much as he wanted, and not necessarily the pay, but more the minutes. I think that was more of what he wanted and maybe to explore at the end of his career playing in Europe. I think, Sam, you had mentioned before, I believe he's an MLS lifer prior to this. I don't think he had played anywhere else. So maybe this is a final, opportunity for him to do that. And maybe that was part of his dream.
Yeah, I think you look at the Instagram caption, it had said something about new opportunities. So definitely looking to probably finish out his career with a new experience. But I'm interested to see how he does. Obviously, all these former FC players at this point now, after really being with them for a couple seasons, I think to your point, a guy like Brenner, we won't really follow as much as we will a Vasquez, a Mascara, a Baji, Arias, because they were a part of that team that we won Supporter Shield with, right? So it always holds something special in our hearts, a little bit more.
Is Brenner technically a part of that roster?
No,
I don't know. He was at first, but
no.
I mean, he was on the team for half the year, but he had one goal and I think like 10 games or something like that. But yeah, I don't think they get rings or anything for winning Supporter Shield, but he definitely wouldn't be in line to get a ring if that was
You get a plate.
the scenario.
Congratulations.
Everyone gets a small Supporter Shield plate.
Yeah.
Zach, I wanted to ask you, thanks again for coming on tonight. I wanted to get your impressions heading into the season. I think we're going to have a few people on to kind of give us their pulse of the team, and everyone's opinion's a little bit different on it. So I'm interested to see what you think.
Yeah. So obviously coming in as the defending Supporter Shield winner, you got high expectations for the team, right? So it'll definitely be interesting to see what Pat can do, what he can assemble, what the guys can do on the field. But I found it very interesting. I wasn't sure if you guys noticed in the past couple of days, the media has been roaring about the FC Cincinnati Stadium, TQL Stadium, and about the projects that are going on there. So unfortunately, recently, the two projects that they had going on, one was denied funding, which was the mixed use of, I believe, the
development north of the stadium, right? Yeah.
Yes, that was denied. However, the convention center that they would like to put in was approved. So I'm just saying this because I believe this will get more people to the stadium. I mean, we already are selling out games after games, but I think this will get more of an atmosphere of, let's say, the Europe crowd, and anyone across Northern America. If FC stays hot, FC keeps making progress and keeps going, I could really see this crowd base getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I love how the community in Cincinnati in general is trying to back the club. Yeah, big hopes for the club, and I'm looking forward to what they bring to the pitch this year.
Do we have a prediction for the season?
That's what I was about to ask you. What do you think?
I'm going to say we're going to win the Shield again. And I think I'm going to leave it up in the air. I'm going to say that. I think that's going to happen.
So at least one trophy is what you're thinking?
At least one trophy. At least one trophy.
Okay. It would be impressive to go back-to-back Shields. I think that would be insane. And then furthermore, like maybe validate our point that the Shield is the harder thing to win, especially like 2 years in a row. Sam, you don't look so like enthusiastic about that thought though.
I just want to finish off my silverware. We have the spoons. We have a plate. Give me a cup.
Yeah? Good shout. Doesn't matter what cup.
No, doesn't matter what cup you're drinking out of a cup.
Champions Cup, Leagues Cup, MLS Cup,
U.S. Open Cup.
U.S. Open Cup. There's a lot of different cups. Yeah. All shapes and sizes. But it doesn't matter. Sam just needs a cup. Zach, I appreciate your insight on everything. Really to at least hear from you, like, I know you're up in Michigan now, but you're right. I think the whole city is excited about the team, and especially after last year too. I know in a prior podcast we had been talking about that mixed use development. It sounds like the team's going to find some ways to hopefully still make that happen. The funding from the state got denied, but I think at least they can deepen their pockets a little bit, hopefully, and make that work, because you're right. Creating an atmosphere around the stadium to keep everyone there is ultimately what you want, and it's very European styled. We already have OTR right there, which is very similar too, but to have it like on your property and for the club to make money from that too would be pretty special, to bring in better players, and furthermore, I think help with the All-Star game hopes too. If there's any delay in this project, how does that hamper our chances for bigger events? We had talked about, does it help us with getting, Copa Americas in the future, or All-Star games, or even World Cup, pregame matches and stuff like that? I don't know. I'm not sure, but hopefully that gets resolved.
Agreed.
So I think we can cap off this episode. Do you guys have any final points that you wanted to touch on?
No, I just want to know if I got this trivia wrong, right?
Yeah, so this trivia question, again, the question was including Yerson Mosquera's debut for Villarreal and La Liga this past weekend. How many FC Cincinnati players, present and past, have played in La Liga? Sam, you locked in 3. Zach, you locked in 2. You both agreed that Harris Majunjanen was one of them, and you were right on that. You were wrong on the number. 6 total FC Cincinnati people have played in La Liga.
Wow.
It's fascinating. Yeah. So Roland Lama, if you remember him from FCC's first MLS year. Santiago Arias, Zach, you mentioned for Atletico Madrid before. Mosquera, Villarreal. Miazga had played in La Liga. Majunjanen and Titan. Przemysław Titan, the goalkeeper, had also played in La Liga too. So, fascinating. I mean, we had a lot of people that had played in that league. I have not been able to see anyone else that's played in Serie A, so I think Brenner might be the first one that's played in the Italian league. We've had several, obviously, in the Dutch league, but again, will be cool to kind of follow these guys and their different paths, some more than others, like we've mentioned, but we're excited nonetheless, and we got some more FCC coming to you guys, at least breaking down the preseason games and hopefully some final transfer saga info. I think that was the final point I wanted to make is, really Alvaro Barreal sounds like he's staying at this point, guys. I know I had just briefly commented on it before, but that European deadline is closing technically, on Thursday. For him to go through with the paperwork and to get everything filed and done at this point doesn't seem realistic. I think we have at least another 6 months of Barreal, and I'm pretty happy at least that he's a part of our roster for now, because he's a quality player. Bummed for his career, and what that means, but we need him for this current roster the way that it's set up.
Yeah, I think that just means that, thank God, our left wing is there. Now we just need somebody on the right wing, right?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. But stay tuned. Next week we'll have another episode likely, and we'll go from there. Thanks again for listening, guys.